Pattern block relationships. In pattern block relationships, the purpose of this activity is for students to understand fractional parts of a whole and the fraction that represents those parts. So with pattern block relationships, you're going to need 2 worksheets for the students and a set of pattern blocks. To begin, you're going to go ahead and elicit from the students what they know about fractions and start with a hexagon as being the whole. And as you can see here, they're going to find how many triangles, rhombi, and trapezoids make up a whole hexagon. So they'll begin by placing the triangles on the hexagon until they're able to discover that 6 pieces or 6 triangles makes up the whole hexagon, which they'll indicate here. And they'll do the same thing using the rhombi and using the trapezoid. And at this point, they're not working with fractions, but they're only discovering how many pieces fit on a whole. In the next part, the wholes actually change. In the beginning, we were just using 1 hexagon. Now we are going to change the whole to be equal to 2 hexagons. So 1 whole is equal to 2 hexagons. Again, as in the beginning, they're going to discover how many triangles or pieces, parts, will cover 2 hexagons. And some of the students will begin to understand that if 1 hexagon is 6 pieces or parts, then they will understand that 2 hexagons will then be 12 pieces or parts. And again, remember, we're not talking about fractional pieces yet. We're just talking about how many pieces or parts will fit on a whole. This case, 2 hexagons being the whole. So 12 altogether, 6 and 6, will fit on the 2 hexagons. And they'll continue to discover with rhombi, trapezoids, and now the hexagon of how many pieces will fit on the whole represented by 2 hexagons. And for the rhombi, that will be 6, and so on with the trapezoids and the hexagons. Now that the students have discovered how many pieces or parts fit on a whole, and they're indicating whole parts or whole amounts, the next part of the activity is for them to move on to conditional statements, if-then statements with the appropriate fraction. So if, again, 1 hexagon is equal to a whole, then what fractional part would the rhombi be? So students may need to go back and remember how many pieces or parts do I need to place of the rhombi on the whole hexagon. And they'll discover again that it was 3 pieces or parts on the whole. So now we're only looking at 1 piece or part. So if I remove what I do not need and leave 1, they can now see that 1 out of the 3, or 1/3, is equal to 1 rhombi. And they will continue to do the same for the trapezoid and for the triangle. So for example, 2 hexagon creates a whole. So 1 hexagon would equal 1/2, or 1 out of 2. And they'll continue to do the same for the triangle. And then as we did before, our whole is going to change. And instead of 1 hexagon, our whole now becomes 2 hexagon. So if 2 hexagon equals the whole, then what fractional part of the whole is 1 rhombi? And again, students may need to remind themselves by placing all of them on to discover that 6 pieces or parts equals the whole. So if I'm only looking at 1 piece or part, then it will be 1/6. And they'll do the same to discover the fractional part of a trapezoid, a triangle, and a hexagon. And that is pattern blocks relationships.